So I went ahead and forwarded time and Manzazita so we could get access to the next paper. This is probably the last one we're gonna see for around the main story, so probably not gonna look for another one. I don't think this is the last one, but hint hint, there's probably one more after the main story, you know. But this one will probably have some of the events that just transpired with Dutch, so let's give it a good read. Once again, if you don't want to stick around for me reading this thing, I like to read it. You can pause the video, read it yourself, skip forward. I understand, you know, not everybody is into that sort of thing. Number 60? Wait a minute. What? Hold on. There was more? Now wait just a minute.
I sincerely thank you.
Alright, well, it looks like we got a lot of papers to read. I didn't realize that there was one. You think I would have saw it? Maybe there was a newspaper right before, like, the last mission to get Dutch. But I guess we got a lot of reading to do. So once again, if you don't want to stick around for that, because you don't want to hear me do all this reading and you'd rather just read it yourself, feel free to pause the video on each article, you know, if you want. But if you want to stick around, let's give this a good read. And if you just want to kind of skip ahead, by all means, I understand. Alright, so we're on issue 59, and this is the issue we just bought. So we got two papers to read. You know what? This one probably came after the first mission with Edgar. I'm just surprised I never noticed that it was on sale. Whatever. Blackwater was set by savages. Noted anthropologist survives. No, this one's right after the prodigal son goes to Yale. So, anyway. A vicious gunfight on the streets of Blackwater, perpetrated by a barbaric gang including some Indians, has further compounded claims that the native problem in the region is worsening rather than improving. The subject of the attack was a certain Professor Harold McDougall, a prominent academic on the subtanical from Yale University, to carry out a study of the native population with a view to identify the true root of their resistance to civilization, culture, and religion. Professor McDougall was apparently ambushed at his room in the Blackwater Hotel and forced to flee to the roof, where a bloody shootout ensued. Eventually, McDougall, proving the true robustness of a classical education, and an unnamed gunman were able to subdue the assailants and make their escape. It is believed that this abhorrent band of savages is being led by the notorious outlaw Dutch Vanderlyn. Many say Vanderlyn, who disappeared without a trace around 6 years ago, has been living among the natives for some time now, raising the question of whether he is inciting the unrest or has fallen victim to a process of de-civilization, much like the Wolf Girl we reported on last year. Well, that's funny. We just heard about the Wolf Girl from Jack. The Ladies' Battle. Suffragists march on the Capitol. Suffragists march on the Capitol Tuesday in a beleaguered effort to secure the vote. Yet how does the acquisition of a vote affect the property privileges of men? Until this question is satisfactorily answered, it shall remain the complication preventing women voting. Granting of property rights to women would result in cataclysmic confusion and the destruction of our core values as well as our families. No, it will not. These shrieking and savage mobs of harpies make Uncle Sam shudder. French literature, little more than pornography. Oh my God. A powerful group of congressmen in Washington are pushing forward with plans to outlaw French literature in this country. The congressmen, who cross party lines but none of whom actually speak French, argue that French literature is little more than cheap pornography. They believe that it is sure to rip the soul out of the nation and do little to help the hardworking American family. Referencing works by Zola, Diderot, and Voltaire, one congressman listed the horrors these books contain. There's tales of nudity, illicit sexual congress, incest, prostitution, sexual pleasure, and much else besides. While having these books translated for me, I came over all funny and took a turn. I am not ashamed to say that I disgraced myself. A less upstanding person than myself could have been destroyed by the revelations in these books and seen his life reduced to a rubble of self-pleasure and onanism. Thankfully, it will take more than onanism to take me down. I'm sorry, I can't speak, guys. To take me down. But the same cannot be said for the population at large. The group is suggesting that all French books, along with the language, and even French bread and letters, be outlawed in the U.S. No thanks, man. I like French bread. You will not take that away from me. Industrialist comes under more fire. In the fight for progress, there are always casualties. Jeremiah Somerset once said, however, the wealthy industrialist business practices have come under scrutiny once more following accusations that he has been poisoning horses to make way for his mechanized threshing machines. This strikes a particular chord in the aftermath of last year's allegations that Mr. Somerset was behind the weevil epidemic that ruined crops in New Austin, forcing farmers to sell their land at a fraction of its worth, and the infamous Irving factory explosion that killed over 400 child workers in 1903. A staunch supporter of prohibition, Mr. Somerset has also said the manufacturer is stockpiling quantities of alcohol. He has so far declined to comment on these allegations. That's that one guy that bartender guy was talking about. Automobile deaths 30, lynchings 127. While fascinating march of science brings us the sweet sounds of recorded for a Victrola? The sound of the automobile has spelled death for an increasing number of citizens as safety fears grow around the horseless carriage. Lynchings are up, which many attribute to the weather. How does that have anything to do with the weather? Whatever. Patented medicine picture show in Blackwater. Druggists and shopkeepers express consternation at the new motion picture show currently playing in Blackwater. It is titled The Dangers of Doctors and Patented Medicines. Taken to task are the patent medicines and traveling salesmen who ply their wares. Their publication has enjoyed a long and happy relationship with many patented medicine companies who support the newspaper, and we agree that reports of death, drug addiction, and other hazards for such compounds are completely baseless. Dinosaur fossil hoax embarrasses scientists. Scientists were rushing to explain the recent report that prominent dinosaur researcher, Professor Bellum Brown, was observed making plaster casts of dinosaur bones. Brown claims it was for the research purposes. Critics say that dinosaur bones are manufactured in labs and buried by scientists who later excavate them in an attempt to stray mankind. They also indicate that nowhere in historical record is there a mention of giant lizards. Unfortunately, my good man, you are so wrong. Nipping conception in the bud. The North American Birth Control League published its newest list of pregnancy prevention techniques. Coverings from the male member fashioned from animal intestine. Gross. I just threw up a little bit in my mind. Are found to be the most useful. Additionally, marital congress should occur shortly after a woman's curse. Suffragists spoke out against birth control methods, saying that devices that cover the member are indicative of brothel creeping. After publishing their recommendations, members of the league were arrested and jailed due to laws prohibiting the discussion of sex in our society. So, against birth control methods, saying the devices that cover the member are indicative of brothel creeping. What exactly is brothel creeping? I have no clue. I'm kind of tempted to look that up. I feel like that's something specific, because in my mind that just means they're creeping on a brothel. I don't know. Maybe I'm taking it too literally. If anyone knows, if you even want to risk talking about it in the comments, let me know, because I'm not sure why they would be against preventing birth. I don't know. Or preventing birth control. Tax increase necessary to fund government expansion. Lawmakers in Washington, D.C. yesterday insisted that significant tax increases were necessary in order to pay for a greatly expanded federal government. When challenged that such actions were unconstitutional and that the states had powers that should not be diminished by the federal government's ceaseless growth, lawmakers laughed and said the alternative is that we simply print more money and devalue the currency. So either way, do not forget who is in charge. Then the president gave an impassioned speech about freedom and personal responsibility in the modern age. Wow, this sounds starkly similar to what we deal with in today's times. Huh? Etiquette tips. Excerpts from William Laggard's Guide to Manhood. Etiquette 1. Etiquette prescribes that men of distinction eat alone in a room uninterrupted by the frivolity of women and children. Oh, man, this is just going to be some really toxic masculinity sort of things, isn't it? 2. A code of manners in street greetings, such as throwing down one's outerwear into puddles of the doffing of one's headwear, will give evidence of correct breeding. I don't even know what that means. 3. If you are going to in the presence of ladies, beware of onions, spirits, flatulence, and tobacco. So it's just saying, like, don't, like, eat onions, drink, and smoke around women. I guess that if you're trying to appear clean and proper, I guess that makes sense. But what, you can't smoke or drink with females? Like, not females, women. Let me correct myself there. Women, not females. 4. When making a formal call on a lady, hat and gloves should be in his hands, and although his happy demeanor may, his platoon should not betray his excitement. Oh my god. 5. Men are expected to be extremely active in the ballroom while dancing. Hands should never touch the corset lest they spoil her dignity. If uncertain about their technique or gracefulness, it is suggested men dance with each other until they are more sure of themselves. Oh gosh. I swear, these newspaper things crack me up at times. Yeah, that's an ad. Miscellany. Nastas, surname unknown, of Indian descent, has passed away at Bear Claw Cabin in Tall Trees. May you find God, my dear friend, Professor Harold McDougall. Aw, that's actually kind of sad. Missing person, Sam Odessa, age 35, disappeared from his home 6 weeks ago, possibly heading west towards California. His wife, Elena, seeks any information as to his whereabouts. Sorry to break this to you, but that is way more than 6 weeks ago. We have, like, 3 months of game time in, so I'm sorry. This is wrong. Make your hard... Oh, yeah, and sorry. I'm sorry to say your husband is dead, and I sent you the letter. Whatever. Make your hard work earn. Money work hard for you. Daily poker and blackjack tables at Blackwater Saloon. Serious gamblers only. Already won that money, my friend. Dorothy Maygrove wishes to retract the hasty and somewhat hopeful notice of her husband's death. Archie Maygrove is decidedly alive, well, and for the time being, sober. Medicine of the finest quality, origin unknown, but efficiency unequaled. Dr. Francis A. Gallagher, general practitioner, Thieves Landing, New Austin. What an ad. Experienced and punctual stenographer of trustworthy appearance announces that he is available for office work. Swift and proficient, despite slight auroral impairment. No references available at this time. It ain't pride, it's honor. I think that's the cheat that gets you a max honor if you want it. So, once again, if you want the cheat, that's what you're here for. That's where that is. Now, usually I would probably separate reading both of these papers, but I'm assuming this has something to do with Dutch Vanderlyn, so let's go ahead and give it a read. And it looks like there's not that much anyway, so let's give it a good read. This is issue 60. I think this will be the last one for a long time. Or at least for a couple more missions. Hint, hint. Bank robbery foiled by government agents. Your tax dollars hard at work. Sure they are. Dutch Vanderlyn's reign of terror and violence in West Elizabeth shows no sign of subsiding, following a bank robbery attempt that claimed the lives of several innocent victims. Vanderlyn and his associates entered the First National Bank of Blackwater, coerced employees at gunpoint to empty the money from the vaults, and were about to make their escape when lawmen and government agents surrounded the area. After a bloody siege, lawmen stormed the building, but Vanderlyn fled the scene with a hostage in an automobile. Vanderlyn was chased to an old lodging camp at Broken Tree, where another violent altercation ensued. Even though Vanderlyn's body was not identified amongst the dead, many gang members, including some natives, were killed. Oh, man. Kind of losing breath. Gotta get that breath in. A spokesperson for federal agents assigned to Blackwater hailed this as an important victory over the primitive and unprincipled forces that seek to undermine the freedoms and safety of the great American people. Despite repeated and relentless attempts to civilize the native population of West Elizabeth, it is feared the charismatic Vanderlyn was not struggle to recruit further disaffected youths. Sanchez's government falls. Suddenly, Mexico has a new president. General Ignacio Sanchez's government was swept away from power yesterday as supporters of Abraham Reyes ransacked the president's palace, and Mr. Reyes assumed control of the country. After weeks of fighting in and around the capital, food riots across the country, and bloody battles being fought in many provinces, events turned quickly. When the 5th Mexican Cavalry Division, which maintains a large garrison near the capital, switched its allegiance from General Sanchez to Mr. Reyes, following Mr. Reyes' promise to increase army pay and double leave. What? General Sanchez is believed to have fled the capital and gone into hiding, although conflicting reports suggest that he may have been killed in bloody fighting. Mr. Reyes noted that this was a great day for Mexico. Finally, my people, the people of this proud and valiant land are free. A new golden age for our country is just beginning. First, we need a period of stability and then elections and a place on the world stage. Mr. Reyes has announced a 3-day fiesta, declaring a national holiday. Rioting continued across much of the country, while initial reports suggested up to 100,000 may have died in the conflict. This is all sounding very familiar, Abraham. It's kind of sounding like what Sanchez said, but what would I know? I've only played this game like a million times. Nothing there. Unrest in the East. Great Britain versus Germany. Oh, no. Britain's nation's power upon the sea has been unapproached. However, a great rival is rising. Long has Germany desired expansion. Reports indicate the country is laying heavier and heavier levies upon her people in order to fund the formation of the mighty navy. Britain and Germany devote much of their industrial base to the production of weapons at war and a crushing cost of money. These engines of destruction are now seen in flying ships that rain death from above. With Europe heading seemingly closer and closer to war, people across the world are concerned as to how this will pan out. You know, I always forget that this the game is very close to the First World War. And you can definitely see it more on the tail end. The miracle of the telephone. Since the first experimental phone circuit was installed, the growth of the telephone business in a story of romance and science, the telephone company in certain cities nearly 60,000 calls per day requesting to know the time. Critics complain the telephone has made our citizens lazy and unable to read a watch. Okay, man. Relax. That is an ad. Whew. Sorry. Kind of had to get that breath out. I'm trying to read these so fast. Half of Americans living in cities. The prairies have gone quiet. The farms left for seed. And more Americans escaped to the glitz and glamour of the city. Old Dr. U.S. Census made his diagnosis of the condition of Uncle Sam and calculated that for the first time in history of this great country, more citizens reside in cities than in rural areas. Census questionnaires call for typical information as well as literacy, a school of attendance, and whether or not a family member is a survivor of the Union or Confederate Army. Census officials report attempts for information are especially difficult in former Confederate states, where often government officials are fired upon or hanged, such as the local custom. Birth control techniques refuted. Members of the clergy strongly denounced the North American Birth Control League for spreading health misinformation and lies. Leaders responded that such misdeeds and misinformation is similar to that of pagan Rome, where babies were put to death for idle pleasure. We marry and lay with one another only to produce children, Reverend Adar Agatha told this publication. The blasphemous statements by the League turned the marriage chamber into a pleasure-seeking brothel, Agatha attends. All right, man, you're going down a very slippery slope. And you need to chill it. Alright. Massacre at the wreck of the Serendipity. Dozens of dead bodies were discovered at the wreck of the Serendipity in the southwest Great Plains. Most of the corpses were identified as wanted criminals and kicked into the river. Serendipity, once a glorious steamboat, but now little more than a wrecked hull, has become a known-meeting spot for thieves, smugglers, and general lowlife in recent years. Government agents of Blackwater have refused to comment, and local police say that they have no interest in investigating the incident, attributing it to either divine retribution or, for more godless among us, Darwinian natural selection. Federal government increases taxes, extends reach further. Lawmakers in Washington agreed to increase federal income tax again last week to pay for massive expansion into the federal government. Most of the expansion will be in the form of added bureaucracy, with plans to triple the number of civil servants within 12 months in order to better track the work done by government departments and allocate spending more accurately. The government also vowed to increase health care provision for government workers and to build a large number of impressive federal buildings across the country. A significant increase in military expenditure has also been mooted but not yet agreed to. I'm all for, taxes being put to good use, but there is a limit at some points, and I think this game is trying to tell you sometimes it needs to be limited. Safety coffin saves young bride. Florence Snyder, 13, was set to be married with 13? Oh my god. I always forget that people married that young. Married when she's stricken with a terrible cause of cholera and seemingly died. Her betrothed, Cecil Perkins, weeping by her graveside, pledged to never marry as his heart was so rent asunder. Laying awake at night, he began to hear a faint bell, leaving in only his bedclothes. He followed the sound to the graveyard, where he found the bell above her grave ringing. Mr. Perkins had requested a P.J. Winderstein safety coffin for his love. Fiercely digging with hands and spade, he retrieved from her tomb, weakened but mercifully alive, having been in the state of cholera or shock with low blood pressures mimicking death. Oh, well. What a story. A coffin actually saved her. I'm sure that there's probably parts of the story that we are missing for sure, but that'd be crazy if that actually happened, right? Professor advocates prairie preservation. Professor Hector L. Burgess has been touring areas of West Elizabeth in recent weeks in an attempt to rally support for a movement to preserve and protect wildlife habitat. Professor Burgess, who has spent the past 15 years in academic study of fauna and flora in the West, but who recently had never left New York City, is convinced that if hunting is not brought under some form of legal control, certain species of animals may be wiped out entirely. He claims that before white settlers arrived in the West, around 50 million buffalo roamed the plains, but this number may now be in the hundreds or even less. Burgess also believes that areas of both New Austin and West Elizabeth are prime locations for establishment of a national park to rival Yellowstone in Wyoming. We say to Professor Burgess that the majority of the rural population remains extremely resistant to any form of prairie conservation, which we view as an attempt on the part of the urban elite to extrapolate land, property, and natural resources from their own nefarious gain. Usually I would agree with that statement, that people would just be trying to take advantage and take land, but one of the few things I am definitely for is nature preservation, at least to the degree to make sure that things don't go completely sideways. So it's nice to see that they're kind of outlining that here. Aeroplane flies from coast to coast in under 30 days. While most prefer the relaxed flight upon dirigible, those who desire to understand the aeroplane need only to speak with Horace L. Curtis, who piloted from coast to coast in under 30 days. This most groundbreaking scientist airbound locomotion promises to allow travelers the freedom to take to the skies and visit the coast with ease and comfort, with flight times from New York to New Austin in as little as 21 days and San Francisco to New Austin in as little as 16 days. Yeah, well, we saw someone try to take flight, and they failed miserably, so I'm not too sure that that was possible. But when was the first plane made? I'd have to look that up. Another ad. All right, we're here to the last part. Miscellany. Blackwater bank manager Mr. Harmon Weinstein has been found dead near Broken Tree. We're told that he will be missed by some. Oh, so that hostage ended up getting killed. Unwed and childless ladies, why not learn a career? Telegraph operating classes twice weekly at the Blackwater Post Office. Certification of horse steeds for purchase, Dutch warmbloods, Highland chestnuts, and Welsh mountains of the finest lineage. SM Neely Ship and Chandler and Grocer Blackwater. The volcanic pistol is a sidearm that will never go out of fashion. Modernity is not a substitute for craftsmanship. Large stock that must clear quickly. Jeb Murphy, gunsmith, Armadillo, New Austin. Man, we got that gun a while ago. You're late on the ball. Muriel Scranton, loving wife of Joseph Scranton, was killed by a gunshot to the head in the First National Bank of Blackwater. Oh man, that poor girl. Children between 10 and 14 years of age sought for mining work. Good wages and conditions, must be slender and comfortable with confined spaces. I am so glad I did not have to work in a mine during that age. For all your dynamite needs, both professional and recreational, visit the Manzanita Trading Company, Tall Trees. And then here's the cheat. Don't you look fine and dandy. Now, I don't know what that does, but I'm assuming it probably has something to do with outfits. So if you're looking for something like another cheat, there it is. Well, that certainly was a lot of reading. In fact, let me double check to be sure that that was the last one. I don't know how these videos are really going to be split up, to be honest. So, okay, 51, no, 53, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, okay, cool. I don't know how these videos are going to be split up, so I'm sorry if I takes up most of the video, but I have to include those because this is 100% and that is my goal. But once again, I do not mind if you ended up skipping that. To each their own. But we are back to our ranching life. Let's head back to Beecher's Hope and continue to make our ranch and family happy. Alright everyone, we're actually back here in Beecher's Hope. It looks like Jack is practicing some shooting. And that's the start of his next mission, but we're not going to be doing that just yet. We're actually going to check in with Uncle and actually do some more ranching and Kind of make sure the farm is in a good place.
Get up, old man.
I am up.
Get up.
Oh. There, I'm up. Well, thank the good Lord you're back. Nothing worse for an old man than sleeping in the warm afternoon sun.
You want a long sleep, Uncle? That can be arranged. It'll cost me less than food.
You always was a hard and nasty man, John Marston.
You always was a useless, conniving thief. And where's them cattle? Did you take them to pasture?
It's coming around to that.
When exactly?
It's easy to pick on the elderly. It's easy, but it ain't dignified.
Come on, old man. Do this together.
Oh, Uncle. You never change.
Come on. All right, you stay front. Move on! Move on!
That cow
keep
went right through the
moving now.
door. Drive the herd outside Beecher's Hope.
Move! Come on! Come on!
Yeah, we're a real rancher now. We're not no gunslinger.
Steady now, you dumb cows.
What if they started the game out like this, where you were just ranching your own stuff, and then you got, like, kidnapped then? Then again, I guess it would make McFarlane's Ranch's missions kind of pointless, because that's kind of teaches you how to ranch, I guess. But that would have been very interesting. But then again, this time in the game, you wouldn't really get to learn who Jack is, who Uncle is, kind of like get to see Abigail. I don't think you would be as invested because you already know who they are. Then again, I remember as a kid, I was like, am I ever gonna know what they look like?
That's it.
Anyway, get back to our rancher lifestyle. Uncle, why couldn't you have done this? Why do I gotta do everything?
Whoa there! Whoa! Easy. Let's go! Whoa!
God damn it.
Yeah! Whoa there!
I know you have the option to not help them, but truth be told, that would be such a messed up move. Like, I have the ability to help them. And I feel like John, after all this time, like, I know he would try to, like, stay out of putting himself in danger, but I don't think he could leave these people.
Okay?
I think we're safe. Thank you. I thought we were done for.
Just helping out. Now you take care. Come on. Whoa, whoa.
Old habits die hard, I see. You'll never learn.
Dude, they needed help.
Shut it, old man. Come on. Let's get this herd moving again. Move it out. Easy.
Okay, but would it be like bad to not help them? Because I guess, like,
Let's go.
there's nothing wrong with, like, staying on the side if you think that you don't want to endanger your own, like, herd or whatever. Like, there's nothing, like,
Whoa.
it's not illogical, you know? like, you're protecting your end at the end of the day. If they're not focused on you, then it's like, you gotta... John would have to protect his cattle, but I feel like he's able to and he should.
There you go.
Come on. You look after the herd. I'll ride back.
No thanks. You got your pound of flesh from me today. Whoa.
I'm sorry, what? Did he just is like, nah, I'm not gonna do any more work? Like, dude, I found you sleeping. Oh, uncle. Well, while you guys are, eating, I'm gonna head back. I'm gonna avoid my responsibility as well.